It's probably just as well that Disney did release this on Disney+. They obviously knew that people wouldn't exactly flock back to the cinemas to see this once they reopened, and they saved themselves a bunch of distribution fees in the process. Ironically, it's probably the smartest thing about this film, really. So a big screen adaptation of Artemis Fowl has just been released on Disney+, but is it worth a subscription to the service, or worth the time that you're taking out of your day to sit and watch it? Let's get into it! So Artemis Fowl is the adaptation of the Owen Colfer young adult / kids book. It's kind of a hard one to kind of put into an age gap. It's based on his novel, where in a revolutionary step, the title character is the villain of the whole book. You are not meant to like the character of Artemis Fowl. I know that because back in the day, I actually read this book. I heard a great summary of the book a little while ago, which I think sums up the attitude of the book that it's kind of taking. And it's that it's almost like you're reading a book of Die Hard, but instead of following John McClane, you're following Hans Gruber. It is kind of like that. Artemis Fowl in the book is meant to be this young kid genius that is creating a ransom scenario, and he is a little bit Hans Gruber-y. He always has a plan. He always has a backup plan. At any point in the story, much like Hans Gruber, he is the most intelligent person in that room. And that's what I kind of liked about this book. It didn't give you the sense that you're following some heroic teen genius who's using his boy intellect powers for the betterment of human mankind. No, he's a little teen shit who's using his mind and his intellect that he has, knowing he's smarter than everyone else, to create a plan that's gonna benefit him personally. And in a way, I kind of feel like this is something that the film failed to grasp. So to start off with, Kenneth Branagh directed this film. Yes, the Kenneth Branagh, who directed the first Thor film. Shakespearean actor Kenneth Branagh directed this, and that's the most surprising thing about this film. The biggest twist of this film is that it was directed by Kenneth Branagh. And also, while we're on the point of dropping names, has Josh Gad signed the same contract with Disney that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson signed back in the mid-2000s to just be in any live-action Disney movie that is produced within a 5 to 10 year span? Credit to him, he's one of the best parts of this film. I liked watching him. It's just kind of all I see him in at the moment. Now, one of my favourite characters in the book was Butler, and in this film it's kind of a bit weird. They've almost kind of turned him on his head a little bit, because in the book he's only ever referred to as Butler. But in this film, they say don't call him Butler because he will break you in half. Alright, but that's his code name in the book. I also didn't really appreciate that the character of Butler in this film is really only there to give exposition. He plays no real emotional sidekick to Artemis Fowl. You don't really get the sense of him being the protector and the father figure and the accomplice that he is meant to be. Only that he is there to kind of reveal things gradually to Artemis in order to forward the storyline. And when he does so like an NPC video game character. Maybe your father gave you a clue as to where to start. He may as well, after that line, have said, why don't you check your inventory for things you've picked up along the way? And while a majority of the film does, in theory, follow the plot of the book, in the sense that it is kind of a heist/ransom movie, it doesn't really make sense that the thing that they're trying to heist the whole time is something that is already in the house that they are in. If Artemis Fowl is meant to be the teenage boy genius prodigy that he is meant to be, you would think he would have worked out where this treasure was, the fact it was in the house, and the fact that it was hidden there in a safe, and that he would have worked out a way to get into this safe that supposedly you need a master treasure hunter to get into. He's sitting on top of it the whole time, you know, take a day, do a little bit of research, work out how to get into it. It's not like the person that invented that safe knew about fairy folk and therefore only made it possible for them to get into. And once you get that treasure, why would you then have a character claim that they have absolutely no idea how to use it and then immediately afterwards expertly use it to do exactly what they intended to do? I just get the feeling that this film backtracks so much on what it sets up at some point. So it's kind of like, did anyone really have the sense of direction of where this thing is going? And there's no real point at which you get a sense that Artemis Fowl is the genius that he is claimed to be, other than what other people are saying about him. You don't really get the sense that he is using at any point in this film the intellect that he supposedly has. There's no point in the film that you get the sense that he is the smartest person in the room and he always has a plan. If Tony Stark can become an expert in thermodynamics overnight in Avengers, and this kid is meant to be the genius that is kind of equating to a Tony Stark's level of genius, you'd think after maybe a day in that library that they find under the house, he'd come out and be like, okay, I know exactly what to do. I know all of these people's weaknesses. I know all of their strengths, and I have developed a foolproof plan that is a multi-stage plan that is going to get us exactly what we need. But no, there was none of that. Ultimately, a lot of this film, and the dialogue in particular, kind of falls a little bit flat. It's a typical Disney affair where they want to have action and comedy in there at the same time, but there's not really enough of either to distinguish it on either side at all. And they don't at any point make Artemis Fowl out to be the villain or the criminal mastermind or the bad guy that he is supposed to be, other than at one point where he says, I am a criminal mastermind, but has absolutely no evidence to back that up with. Instead of being Hans Gruber, they make him out like Green Hornet Jr., like he's a good guy posing as a bad guy to do a good thing. So with that in mind, Artemis Fowl gets 1.5 stars from me. That might actually be the lowest rating I've given on this channel. This film didn't really do the good story that it's based off of, the justice that it deserves, and actually had every opportunity to be entirely as revolutionary as the book was and garner a whole new audience of captive viewers, and instead became something incredibly generic and flat. Which is a shame, because the books have so much potential as far as kids' films or even developing it into an ongoing series would be. But instead, no, you get a relatively lackluster film adaptation out there that's gonna benefit off of the name that it has on the title and the people that have read that book to come in and be its primary audience instead. So, Artemis Fowl, have you seen it on Disney Plus? What did you think about it? What was missing from this adaptation for you? What would you have done differently? And if they make sequels of the other books into adaptations for this film, how likely are you to see them? All comments are welcome in the comment section below. Let's talk nerdy. As always, if you have enjoyed what you've seen here and you would like to see more, you can click right here to subscribe to this channel and see some more funky fresh videos from yours truly. And until that point, I'm Drew Bridger, and I too am a criminal mastermind, because I have the same amount of evidence to back that up with as Artemis Fowl does.